Well, this chapter starts off Volume 50 in a great way, and personally I think it should have been combined with the last chapter of Volume 49, but that's just me.
One Piece, Chapter 482. Morning is coming.
What? Who's coming? We made it to 50!
Brothers and sisters, we did make it 50 volumes into it. And I know that there's been a couple of instances where, unfortunately, sickness or some scheduling issues or whatever have come into conflict, and I've not been able to release a chapter every day. However, there's also been many times that I had released a couple in 2 and 3 chapters, especially when I first started this out a day. So overall, the consistency has probably still been at least one a day over that last year. And man, Volume 50 and nearing almost Chapter 500 just kind of warms my heart. And excuse me, and to know that there's so many to share that with is just absolutely fantastic and a very good feeling. So, well, hello, my brothers, sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, and of course I'm here to bring you a review on the first chapter in Volume 50. Now, we got on the cover over here some nice artwork. We've got Luffy, looks like he's, applying and using proper medical treatment to himself. He's applying a bandage, it looks like. And Brook's looking pretty cool there. Zoro's looking pretty badass. Nami's over here in a nice sultry pose up at the top, and then a close-up of her. Not really sure what's going to happen or go on in here after the events of the last chapter. And I may have been a little too hard on it overall, but I tell you, the entire chapter just kind of being, Moria pulling all these shadows into him. The thing that I did forget to mention was that several times it seemed like from the word bubbles that were coming out of him, like he was having trouble taking all those shadows in. If you remember, with Luffy, they were amazed that he could even take 100 of the shadows in and remain conscious, right? And we know that Luffy is very strong-willed and has a very strong mind in the sense that he's just very determined. So anyway, there was a few times in the last chapter, of course, of the last volume, that it looked like Moria was just like, exceeding, he's pushing it to the limit, right? So he's this big hulking beast. And in this chapter is very much, what it is the last chapter and this chapter could have been combined into one chapter, and it would have been exactly the same as the two prior to that. You start out, feeling like, oh, all is lost, and Moria powers up and this and that. And then, of course, at the end of last chapter, Luffy's over there to go, and it looks like he's pounding down to get into Gear 2, or second gear, and go and take him out, and tells everybody he's going to be a little reckless. Now, we know that Luffy's already gone into Gear 3, and he's already put a lot out there, okay? He had the 100 shadows in him, and he's taking a lick and keep on ticking. Zoro and Robin and Sanji are just standing fast, right? Instead of really doing anything, at this point, Luffy just kind of says, hey, I'm going to go a little reckless, and they just leave it to him, right? So that's fine. He's the boss. You want to take him out. We'll just stand here while the sun starts to waft over us, and if you don't get Moria knocked out in time, we'll just disintegrate into the sun and die and not get our shadows back, which is ultimately what kind of starts happening by the end of the chapter. Everything in the middle, though, is just complete crazy action-packed stuff. Everybody's freaking, all the zombies, all the, people that are there, the ones that have had their shadows stolen. Oh my god, Moria is so strong. He's even stronger than Oars ever was. He split through their bark with one punch and this and that. Luffy starts going at him, though. Obviously, he goes and gears up. And when he gears up, man, he winds up hitting him with the jet pistol and the jet bazooka, and he just starts fucking him up. And every time he hits him, Moria's losing some of the shadows. He's starting to kind of phase in and out of consciousness. He cannot wrap his mind around being able to have those 1,000 consciousness shadows in him, right? Or shadows of consciousness. And he's having trouble maintaining his conscience and, like, not falling, not passing out from it. So every time Luffy hits him, it's satisfying because he hits him, and I just picture it like just shit squirting out of him. That's what it looks like, but it's actually these shadows that are starting to come out of him. So he winds up going and doing this ultimate dark brick bat move or whatever, where all these bats come out of him and they encapsulate and go around Luffy and then actually create like this black box around him that he can't get out of, right? This shadow box, so to speak. And then he goes and he starts smashing. First he smashes that with a punch, and then goes and starts trying to stomp on it, and he keeps talking about how, and you know what, no matter what you are, you don't understand that, you're just a nail sticking out, and nails always get pounded back in, And I don't think I've ever really quite heard that terminology before, at least not here in the States, but hey, I guess that's what it is. So, and some of these things, too, I know do get lost and misinterpreted into translation, in the whole translation thing. But the bottom line here is that it shows that no matter what, Luffy just keeps getting back up, right? And Luffy goes and he says, after he goes and stands back up from this and gets out of this black box that had pretty much been destroyed anyway by getting smashed on with him inside, he says, he goes, I'm rubber. Rubber always bounces back. And I think that's a great sort of just, metaphor for the series itself. He wants to be king of the pirates. He's got this attitude of someone that's made out of rubber. You know what I mean? It just is. He does. He bounces back from any type of adversity that has happened to him or his crew members thus far. And then everybody else is looking on amazed. Oh my God, can Straw Hat even be killed? And I'm sure that he probably could, but this is a guy that he just shows you. It goes to show that his determination and steadfast will is going to keep on coming. No matter what, he's going to keep on coming at you, right? And that's one of the things that I admire about the series, is that this is a guy who it doesn't matter what you do to him to knock him down, he's gonna bounce back, he's gonna get back up. So I think that the whole thing about I'm rubber is really great, Moria makes mention of how there's no way that he's gonna be able to be king of the pirates, and he's not even gonna be able to survive in the new world. The new world, the new world. You don't understand the monsters, the evil, the this and that's in the new world. Well, if anything I've seen over the last 500 chapters, it's that it's a progressive story where Luffy, back in the beginning, when he was fighting even Arlong and whatnot, he's got to be like 100 times stronger now. Now, I think he'd wipe the floor with Arlong with one hand tied behind his back, while looking the other way and not even having to pay attention to him. That's the whole progression of the series, is everybody gaining these new powers, these new abilities, newfound strength, camaraderie, the working together, the friendship, the family-like bond. So it's very cool stuff to see, and really Luffy winds up going and gears up, man, and he hits gear 3, right? And when he hits gear 3, boy, everybody's like freaking, they're like, oh no, you know what happened to you last time and everything. He winds up doing this huge thing when he turns into this giant shell, like I think it's like a seashell or something like that. I forget, or a jet shell is what he calls it. And he basically just goes and turns into like a kind of almost like a big blob and just kind of like boom, uses the speed of the second gear, or gear 2, and then obviously the size that he can create by filling up his bones with air and becoming bigger. For, of course, the bone balloon, using the jet bazooka and the giant stamp, all the different things that he's done. And he winds up going and jacking him up, right? And Moria, I mean, he's on the ropes. He's on the ropes. He's teetering, he's tottering, he's on the ropes. Luffy winds up going, and after a couple of pages and a little bit of, pandering back and forth with the other characters that are kind of like looking on in awe, he jacks him up again, right? And it's kind of cool because you see Lola the proposer, refuses to go back in the shade, refuses to hide in the shadows, and she actually goes and starts trying to call her shadow out, right? And I like that. Come back to me, this and that, blah, blah, because as these shadows are starting to come out of Moria, even though he's trying to pull him back in and not let him go, he still has some control over them, some grip, right? Even if he's losing it, he still has it. And she's trying to go and say, hey, come back to me, and this and that, we've been there since birth, and blah, blah, and all that stuff was a little bit cheesy. But I like how Luffy went and he's talking to his shadow. He's like, and if you want to be king of the pirates, then you got to come with me, And I like that determination and that sort of speech from Luffy, like, hey, come on, man, come on back. We're gonna be king of the pirates, right? And then he just boom, he jacks him up again and hits Moria again. And then this time Moria is done. It looks like he's down for the count, man. Well, I don't know about down for the count, but at least all of the shadows are going on him. He looks like he's losing consciousness. He winds up going and falling over, and everybody says he did it. Moria does have this look while everything's coming out of him where he's not completely glazed over him, but he's just like, Straw Hat, you think you can then go? And then I love this. He's like, you think things have been tough for you so far? The real nightmare is waiting in the new world, which we've only recently been introduced to, or at least the thought of. Finding out that's the other half of the world that's on the other side of, it's the second half of the Grand Line, but also on the other side of the Red Line. So now that they broke it down for me like that, I just explained it to my son when we were watching the Post-Nenny's Lobby arc, and I was when they just introduced and talked about how the Yonko, the 4 emperors that command have command over the new world, and we know that Shanks and Whitebeard are 2 of them. Anyway, and I was explaining it to my oldest son, James, and I was trying to explain to him, in this red line, it goes all the way around and actually divides it. So the north, west, east, south, the seas, the blues, that's only half of the world on the first half of the Grand Line. And then the new world is on the other half of it, and God only knows what is there. So anyway, the chapter winds up ending, though, with, it was actually kind of almost like a creepy type of thing. You see Zoro you see Robin and you see Sanji standing there, and of course those three need to get their shadows back. And as the sun is rising and cresting over and starts hitting them, instead of just being intelligent and just, maybe just ducking down a little bit, give Luffy an extra minute, they're just standing there, just steadfast and and I understand it's to try to say that we trust Luffy unconditionally, and if he doesn't save us, then guess what? We're not to be saved. But we're not going to back down. We're not going to take a step back. We're not going to run, hide, cower, whatever, retreat. But at the same time, self-preservation is pretty important, especially if, Luffy winds up needing some help with something, right? But it's pretty disturbing to see them standing there and just the top halves of their heads just sort of melting away, Very, very frustrating, I guess disheartening to see. That's how the chapter ends off, though. Ultimately, though, I think it was a very good chapter, and maybe I was a little too hard on the last chapter, but only because I felt like there wasn't a lot of content there for an entire chapter, whereas this chapter I felt like we had some great action, you had some pretty cool lines, things like that. Now, my chapter question for you, brothers and sisters, because many of you, of course, have read ahead and hopefully at this point are maybe experiencing or in the new world and whatnot, is Moria just blowing smoke up Luffy's ass about, oh man, you're not going to be able to handle the new world type of thing? Is it his last attempt and his last ditch effort to kind of scare Luffy, to freak him out, to intimidate him? Or those of you that have read ahead and see, and you don't have to leave any spoilers, but just in the comments, is he telling the truth? Is the new world really on another level? Is it the next level? Let me know what your answer to that question is in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next Fun Nation. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Facebook, and check out my other channels, and thanks for watching.